It's the On Stage podcast with Chris Robert.
I've never done this before, so hey.
Hello, welcome to another podcast. Believe it or not, this podcast is recorded 2 weeks before Christmas. So forgive the Christmas tree in the back because it was still Christmas. We are talking to the creator of the songwriting. We are talking to the creator of the founder of Gospel Music Industry Hub. Her name is Cheryle Dueck. Welcome, Cheryl, to the Onstage podcast. She's also a singer. She's a former songwriter, and we're going to find out why she's former songwriter. Hello, Cheryl. Can you give us a little bit of background of who you are?
Hi, and thank you so much for having me on the program, Chris.
You're
Um,
welcome.
wow, what can I tell you about myself? Well, in terms of my personal background, I am a singer, and my history with singing goes back several years. I won't date myself, but it does go back several years to when I first started singing in choirs at a church I think we both went to. Um, which is in Toronto. And from there, I went to worship teams and then singing solos. I did write songs, yes. Actually, in my teenage years, my best friend and I would be on the phone for hours writing songs and telling stories, and then writing songs within those stories. And we did that for a number of years. We just never recorded any of the music. Although we did have a producer that was interested in us at that given point in time. But being only 13 years of age, the priority at that time was go through school. And then once school was done, then maybe consider going into recording. But of course, going through school, the music things sort of faded. But even though I do say that I'm a former songwriter, um, I will say there are times when there are tunes and songs that do pop up in my head. I just haven't fully developed those ideas yet. So probably need to work on some collaboration in order to make that happen. But that's kind of me. That's what I'm about.
Well, that's excellent. Was there a gospel group you were part of, or was it just that you wrote songs for other people and
I actually just wrote songs with my friend and I, like literally
that was
just,
it?
yeah, we were just writing songs. And the nature of our songs at that time was literally, we were contemplating life at age 13, and then we were seeing some things that weren't right, and we thought, well, why doesn't, it's almost like social justice. Why aren't people loving one another when they should be loving one another? And so we would write songs like that, or we would write love songs because we would tell stories amongst ourselves. We make up stories, and sometimes they were almost like our version of a Hallmark type story. So we come up with love songs that would fit those kind of stories and so forth. So yeah, like we just never got around to recording any of it. That's all.
Yeah, you must have a repertoire of songs that you probably gathering dust right now, you might say, digital dust.
You could say that, yeah. You could say that. And then there's some new songs. Like, now, I will say this: I did have a little bit of a turning point for myself, and that is, as during that season of writing songs with my best friend at that time. Um, Her mom actually was an encourager of us writing songs, and she always said, always repeated over and over again, "You have a God-given gift. You have a God-given gift." And I got to the point where I said, "Well, if I've got a God-given gift, I want to give it back to God." So, literally, I went almost cold turkey and unfortunately, it did hurt my friend, and I'm so sorry that it happened. But I really felt like I wanted to use the giftings that God has given me back to the Lord. And in my mind, that was, I should be singing about God. I should be singing praises to him. I should be using my voice to exalt him, not exalt anything else or any other situation. And then I got a roadblock. And so that's one of the reasons why I guess I say I'm a former songwriter, because I go, well, for some reason, I haven't been able to write songs the way I think I should be writing songs. So yeah, so then I let it lay dormant for a while. But since starting GMI Hub, I've had the opportunity to meet with other songwriters, and even some of the people that are on my team are songwriters. And they sit there and they go, Cheryl, we want to do some songwriting with you, sort of things. So trying to encourage and trying to build that up back again. And they refuse to say that I'm a former songwriter. They just say it's a dormant talent that needs to be awakened and used again.
That's excellent. I was wondering if you actually used the same that like your songwriting process is from experience as well. So every song you put a little bit of yourself, emotion and passion into it, and hopefully that the person that listens and hears your song will feel that same emotion and passion. Well, what's the experience that she went through when she wrote this? Beautiful song, beautiful melody, makes you worship the Lord. What's your songwriting process?
I get a melody before I get lyrics, and sometimes it's a mosh pit. But you know what? Sometimes that inspiration comes depending on the moment. I have a song, for example. Well, now I would say this. I have a song that is in development that was spurred on from a Bible study. I participated in a summer long Bible study about studying about Elijah, and just everything related to Elijah, and going in depth like that made me really think about a process, what he went through, all his different stages, because we weren't just overviewing the story. We were actually going through what was he going through at this point in time when he faced the prophets of Baal. What was he going through shortly after that? Why did he run? Why did, like, we went through all of this, right? And then the part that struck me was when he ran and he ended up in a cave, and God was calling him and saying, why are you here? Why are you here, Elijah? And God was trying to speak to him through a storm, and God wasn't in that voice. But then he allowed fire. God wasn't in there. He allowed a trembling of the earth. God wasn't there. But then that still small voice came, and that's when Elijah was hearing God's voice, and that struck me. So I'm working on a song right now that actually talks about that whole process and how hearing God from that still small voice is what we need for today. So I'm I guess if you want to say the inspiration comes from whatever I'm experiencing as I'm studying, or if I encounter other people and their stories, and or if I'm just challenged with a theme, I try to do a song related to that as well. But the process ends up being a tune before getting the entire lyrics, and then trying to meld the two together to form a song.
If there's a lyric that you absolutely need to use and you feel it doesn't work, would you do your best to try to make it work by changing the lyrics before? Or would you just say, you know what, it's not working, I'll use these lyrics instead? What type of songwriter would you be, or do you consider yourself to be that I have to have this lyric because it means something?
The type of songwriter that would want the idea of the lyric. Sometimes the lyrics come because of the way the momentum of the rhythm seems to be, and I'll try and fit the lyric into that rhythm. But I have had people listen to me trying to do that, and if they hear me struggling, they'd say, maybe you can just dial back on some of those words, or maybe you don't need to say every single word, just say the main words, and the same idea will still go forward. So um sometimes my lyrics I try to fit my lyrics originally with the rhythm that I'm hearing the melody in, just because I feel like that's what it's supposed to do. But I'm open for people to give me feedback, and if they say it feels like you're struggling to say all those words there, so let's try and dial it back and make it more breathable, make it more understandable, so that your listener can get the gist of the message.
Do you feel that writing and music, like let's say you took Psalm 82 and you put music to it, would you feel that was sacrilegious to take music and put it to scriptures that God did intend. What is your
Absolutely.
feeling? What is your feeling towards that?
You know what? The word of God is so powerful. Um, and to say it's sacrilegious to put music to it, that would be like saying, okay, King David, you were wrong to put music to the word. You know, and a lot of the songs, the psalms, are actually songs in and of themselves. We just didn't live at the time that David was playing those songs, so we don't have a tune in our mind of what went to David. But you know, when we read those psalms, sometimes a new tune comes in, and you know, God loves that. He wants us to sing a new song unto Him, right? And if we're singing a new song with the words that were given to the people, like prophets or kings or whoever, that was given to Him in the Bible, what a way to make sure that your song is scripturally aligned with His word, and really presenting His word in a way that people can receive it, because people are more open to hearing the music than just, you know, getting thumped on the head with the word, if that makes any sense.
I totally agree with you, Cheryl. Because I think there's two or three versions of Psalm 23 out there with different music to his words. Now, maybe one day we'll find out exactly what that music was that David put to his psalms, but
Mm,
we don't know now. But it could be music we never heard before. Beautiful music, harp,
absolutely. Yep.
sitar,
Hmm.
um, flute. Every
Yeah.
instrument is mentioned in the Bible.
Yep.
So,
Including strings and guitars and drums, you know, and
yeah,
timbra,
yeah.
you know, and that is the basis for which why GMI Hub started in some ways too, because you know, I think about musicianship, and I think my one of my favorite scriptures regarding music, believe it or not, is actually in Second Chronicles. I know that there's the Psalms, and I love the Psalms, um, but I think of Second Chronicles, where Jehoshaphat, I'm going to say his name right, was faced with all these armies coming against him, and he said, "I don't know what to do, God, but we're looking to you." And in that prayer, when everyone was praying and humbling themselves before God in the midst of this crisis, a prophet spoke up saying, "Hey, the battle's not yours; it's God's, and you know, and you're going to leave victorious today," kind of idea. And then Jehoshaphat said, "Great, okay, we're going to go forth into the battlefield. Singers, get going. You know, you're going to lead instrumentalists after that." And then the people with the weapons were to go after that. I think about that. God's way of thinking of fighting an army is not about so much the physical as it's about the spiritual, and the spiritual comes through praise. And and I feel as though here, I mean, we're situated here in Canada, and I feel as though not as many of our artists are able to share, or they feel like they can't share the gifts and talents, the worship that they have in their music. And so GMI Hub started, or Gospel Music Industry Hub started, in order to provide a way for them to actually have that opportunity, like where we can work with them, helping them get their music out there, which is a word that they always say, and give them opportunities to showcase their song, and in a sense, train them to be spiritual warriors, so that they can be like Jehoshaphat's army and be able to sing, you know, and or present their music and glorify God through it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's excellent. It's really thought provoking. And I'm thinking, like, when you mentioned that Gospel Music Industry Hub, I'm thinking of CCM as well, Christian Contemporary Music. The company
Mhm.
came up with people like Mark Schultz and all those older ones, and like the Allies, the Daniel Band, remember Petra,
Yeah.
um, all of them back in the. Now, a lot of the Christian music has gone the way of, what do you call it? I guess the industry is not as Christian pure as it was back then. Um, but I noticed that by gospel music industry, you have some pretty really good, like you have Brian Dirksen, as I saw, and really great people that you talk to who have some good solid music, which I like. Um,
Yeah.
can you describe the skills that you've learned that helped you in your singing career?
Oh, wow. Some of the skills I've learned through the people we've been, had the privilege of speaking with and interviewing. Oh my goodness. How long do we have on this podcast? In terms of the actual singing, the active singing, I have learned through a vocal technician by name of Noreen Smith different ways. Like, first of all, I've learned how our vocal system works. Like, it's actually a system in there, and I've learned how it works, and having that greater understanding of how the airflow hits the vocal cords or hits the larynx, and what causes it to feel tightened, and why we have a tightened sound, and what helps us to make an open sound, what we need to do to massage our vocal cords. All these little tricks I have learned, and I learned through her. I did not know that all in advance, and I've tried some of her tricks, and honestly, it's helped me with some live performances that I've had to do during the summer, spring and summer months. So I've learned that through songwriting. I've learned through several different songwriters, from Jacob Moon and Jason Dunn, and oh my goodness, Roseanne Baker Thornley, Rochelle Luke, and there's so many more songwriters that we have encountered. I have learned the value of of how to find your lyrics, for one thing. Some tricks related to, if you have a theme, for example. Um, for I'll use Christmas, because we are here during Christmas time doing this recording, even though this is going to be aired after Christmas. But during the Christmas season, we think of Christmas, and I go, okay, if I want to write a Christmas song, what exactly, what angle am I going to take? What's the importance of Christmas? What does Christmas mean to me? So I may think of Christmas, and I think of, Christmas tree. I think of lights. I think of shopping. I think of the colors, red, green, white. I think of snow. I think of sledding. I think of bells, and so forth. And using what's important to help develop a song. So I've found tricks related to lyric writing. Um, I'm probably going beyond your question here. I think you're asking more about singing than anything else, but um, I've learned um, the importance of overall health when it comes to even being excellent at what you do. Um, I've also learned that singing is not just about what we give here, because even if we sing, we have the help of technical people that are giving us microphones and amplifying our voice. And of course, they can only amplify what we give them, but I would be amiss to not give credit to the people who take care of that, because they are helping that message, whatever the message of the song is, go further and farther, have a farther reach with an audience. So I've learned quite a lot.
Yeah, especially, but writing lyrics and putting music to it, like you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
I've talked to some musicians. They said that they write the music first, but the majority of write the lyrics first, and then they
Mhm.
put the music to it. Now I
You know
don't know
what?
what's
Well, you know what? It depends on how a person operates, because we're all what's the right word I can say? We're all created by God, but God is so creative that we're all different in how we approach things like that. And even songwriters, among songwriters themselves, I would encourage this, and I'm learning the value of this a little bit more, although I have yet to experience this personally. But I'm learning and hearing more about the value of collaborations when it comes to songwriting. And the reason for that is because each person that's involved in the songwriting will find out what their strengths are and what they can contribute to the making of a song. For example, like you mentioned, Chris, there are people that are stronger with lyrics. So you can have someone who's there who's strong on the lyrics, but there's someone else who may be strong on maybe the melody. And then there's another person that may be strong on music arrangement. And there may be, there's just so many aspects of building a song that it almost takes a village of songwriters to make one beautiful song to come out. And most successful songs that you hear today, whether they're on mainstream radio or on Christian radio, are all birthed out of collaboration. Very rarely will you hear a song that was written by just one person and produced by that one person and made popular by that one person. Very, very rarely would you have that.
Can I worship God if I take Stairway to Heaven and put Christian lyrics to it?
If that's what I would say, yes. I don't know the words to
Because
Stairway.
someone did that actually. Someone did that, and it sounded really good. But I asked is because you do realize where Mighty Fortress is our God, where that song actually came from.
Yeah.
It used to be a bar tune.
So was Amazing Grace.
Well, see,
Right?
there you go. So you know that too. Um, so what becomes a worship song? I realized that, like, to say, well, unless the song I'm listening to or the worship song I'm listening to doesn't have God's name or Jesus in there, then I don't listen to it. But I've heard some pretty good music, for instance, from like Dallas Home, Wayne Watson, my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It's always got Lamb of God in there. It's got God in there, sometimes Jesus or my Father or and it's still a blessing, even if I don't hear that those names are in there. Like if they write a gospel tune that doesn't have Jesus or God in it, but does have a reflection of him and uses scripture, I still feel blessed by it. But sometimes I'm listening to a Christian contemporary song from like Jeremy Camp or something, and I'm like, it. I just feel kind of irked by it. And I'm like, this is supposed to be a Christian tune, but is it just me or like the melody? I don't like the melody. I don't like the lyrics. But this song over here by someone is such a blessing, such great worship tune, a pretty good classic Christian song. But people are saying it doesn't. That's not worshiping God. That's from the devil, you know. And I'm like all music is from God. Doesn't matter whether you put Christian lyrics to it or regular worldly music, worldly lyrics to it.
When it
I
comes
mean,
to, well, what, sorry, I didn't mean to stop you there, but when it comes to the music, I think one of the things that any musician or any musician or any songwriter needs to think about is, what is the purpose of your song? What is the plan for your song? Who are you trying to reach, and is it for the purpose of praise and worship? If it is for the purpose of praise and worship, then there are probably certain elements that need to be involved in those songs in order to encourage praise and worship. Then, even with that, is it praise and worship for an individual? So, in other words, a person who listening to the song in their car, is that the purpose of allowing, like, bringing that song so that person can sing praises to God in their car, in their bedroom, or in their kitchen while they're washing dishes or something like that? Or is it for corporate worship? There are songs that are for corporate worship that need to have a certain element that maybe a song for personal worship would be different. Something that's more personal worship would be a little bit more introspective, maybe a little bit more, if I can say, deep, in terms of bringing someone in that one-on-one relationship with God. Something that's a little bit more corporate may not be as deep, but it is something that a large majority of people can relate to and can jump on the bandwagon of praising God. It's simple. It's simple understanding of who God is, for example. When we talk about gospel music, we also include songs that have the principles of God. So, for example, loving, how we should love one another, principles like, could be family related. We recently released a Christmas compilation album where we invited people to write Christmas songs. And on one of those songs I'm thinking about right now, it actually takes it from the focus of family get together at Christmas time, but yet at the same time, if I can say this, putting the perspective of, we get our people all together. Yes, we're giving gifts. Yes, we're singing songs. But what is the real meaning of Christmas? And that's the gist of the song. It's like the real meaning is talking about the birth of Jesus and so forth. So it's a different angle that is approached, but at the same time it gets back to the core, which is the gospel message.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Cheryl. It brought to mind a memory of. Do you know? Are you familiar with Horatio Spafford?
I think I've heard that name, not
Okay.
fully from it
Um,
though.
you ever heard of the song "It Is Well with My Soul"?
Yes.
He wrote that.
Yes.
You know why "It Is Well with My Soul" is such a powerful tune? Now, it could be considered a gospel tune, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a powerful tune because Horatio Spafford. I remember his history that all four of his daughters and his wife. I think his wife survived, but they were on a cruise ship
Yes.
and it went down, and all four of his daughters drowned. And he was
Yes.
in this lowest and darkest time, and he wrote a
Mm-hmm.
song called "It Is Well with My Soul," which is
Yes.
based on that.
Yes.
But unless people know the history, "It Is Well with My Soul" is a good song. But if they knew the history, you'd think that would be more of an emotional experience, especially with someone who maybe have lost their own child,
Mm-hmm.
maybe has more of an impact.
Yes.
So why can't I take Elton John's "Your Song" and turn it into his song and put Christian lyrics to it and get people to worship to that song without realizing, wait a minute, that tune sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Um, that's why I don't believe that Satan created music. I believe God gave us all music. It's just that men, because of our wicked hearts, um, dis, dis, dive, pervert pervert
Mm.
the music and put devilish lyrics to it. But
I agree with you. God is the creator of the music. I think Lucifer was the reflector of the music, but he didn't like the idea of being the reflector because he wanted it to come back to him and to be absorbed, like the pride and the glory to go to him. And henceforth, he has since used that powerful thing of music to to draw people away from God. But I believe, like you, that God is the original creator of music, and that the body of Christ, those who are talented or called into the music scene, should be using their giftings to glorify God, even if they're on the fringes. And when I say that, I mean this. There are artists that we encounter that they're still going to, they still use their music to glorify God, but their audience is for people that are unsaved. Their audience for people that are unchurched. And to sing glory, hallelujah, to an audience like that may be a little bit foreign, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm using a simple term, but it's not something that an audience like that would relate to. But I love what some of the artists do. Some artists, I think it's the Hunter brothers that come to my mind, and Tim and the Glory Boys. They use their stories, their own testimonies, and that's biblical because we defeat the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. They use their own stories and their own testimonies in their music, and they throw in stories about how they went to church, and it was like mommy and daddy always told us we had to go to church, and this is the things that we learned, and we always had to praise God. This is how they put the gospel message in, and that's how they do it for the audience that they are trying to reach. To your point, Chris, about um, taking songs, and basically what you're talking about is doing oh, the not anomaly, there's a word for that, where people take songs from a popular mainstream song, and they put different lyrics to it. And um yeah, and it could be used to change the trajectory of what that song was all about, to be a praise song. My husband used to go to a church, and when he was in a band, they actually took songs like Achy Breaky Heart, and they changed the lyrics, so saying that he can heal your heart, your achy breaky heart, and singing this in a public setting, and people tune in and dancing around because they know the tune, not realizing that the message was, no, he can heal your heart, your achy breaky heart, you can turn to him today, kind of idea. So they changed that message accordingly, right? Rebecca St. James is another artist, I believe. She's taken some popular songs in mainstream, taking the background music, but she reworked the songs to say that I want to be like you, God, or whatever the song was saying. She switched it around, so it was almost directed to her relationship with Christ. So to your point, I don't see anything wrong with people taking a song or a tune, as long as they do it, you know, cover their P's and Q's in terms of registration and so forth, and making sure that people who get their proper royalties get their proper royalties. But I see no problem with people taking a tune and changing the words so that it's used to glorify God.
I think you're talking about the word parody, I think.
That's the word. That's the word. I
Yeah.
was trying to think of the word. That anomaly in my head. That's not the word.
Yeah,
Parody is the word.
something like Weird Al Yankovic would do.
Yes, exactly. I think he's kind of the originator, or at least the one that made parodies very popular when he did Eat It instead of Beat It, right?
But taking a song like your song by Elton John, or taking Britney Spears' Baby, um, what's that song? Anyway,
Baby's
and putting Christian lyrics, kind of, baby. You want to say
yeah.
Jesus, Jesus? You wouldn't want to do that.
Mhm.
It only goes so far.
And you do have to know your audience, because there are Christians that won't accept that. They actually will, because they are so familiar with what the originator and the original purpose of the song was, putting Christian lyrics, they actually would actually reject the song even if you put Christian lyrics to it. But that's all about knowing your audience. That's a whole different conversation. But um, again, it goes back to the what's the purpose of your song, and understanding who your audience is in order to know whether or not to do a parody or not. Right, to glorify God.
God has a lot of music out there that He's willing to allow you to write. Um, like, for instance, Wayne Watson and I believe Dallas Home, they have a lot of good gospel, a lot of good, great Christian gospel music. We can take music and skew it and make it say terrible things, but it's all good, even if you put Christian lyrics to it. But when you talk about Christians who do not accept that, I'm kind of like, why? I mean, then don't listen to it then. Don't listen to secular music. Listen to gospel music. There's some music out there I've heard on contemporary music that just doesn't sit right with me. It's like, I don't know if the person who wrote the song has any good intentions. But there are other songs which have a great melody, and I'm just like, if I listen to it, my day goes well. And also, when you listen to a gospel tune and it makes you feel joyous and happy, Satan doesn't want you to be joyous and happy. He wants you to be sad and miserable. So my attitude to music has changed in the last 20 years, because when I first became a Christian, I wouldn't even listen to things like secular music for 10 to 15 years before I realized that God created all music. And I was able to let go with that and realize, praise God anyway. And then you have songs like It As Well With My Soul. It's pretty good to every time something goes wrong, I say, It is well with my soul, and I can move on throughout the day, right? And not once has anybody parodized that song, actually, if you can say paradise, has made that a parody. It is well with my soul. I haven't. Chris Mann or Weird Al Yankovic, I don't think anybody has taken a Christian tune and um, put other lyrics to it. I don't think. I'm not sure about that. But in terms of the overall composition, what is your favorite song and why?
What is my favorite song? Um, that's usually a difficult question because there are a lot of songs that I like. um,
Well, if
well,
you can go to Spotify, whatever you use right now, and turn on a song, what would it be?
wow. Um, yeah, there's a lot of songs. There's a lot of songs that I like. Um, well, let's see. If I can answer with multiple songs.
Okay, give
If
me three
if you're
songs.
okay, so if we're thinking about praise and worship songs, one of the songs that comes to mind is "The Blessing." I know that was only written recently. Well, I say recently, but during the COVID. But that really spoke to me when that song was written, because literally it's not the song, the lyric wise, we know where the lyrics come from. It's straight out of the Bible, right? The tune was put together, I think, inspired by God, basically um, causing people that at a time of crisis to say, you know what, I'm still going to bring blessing, and I'm going to speak blessing on those that are around me. So that's one of the songs that pop into my mind in terms of praise and worship. In terms of and another song that used to really be strong for me was, and the name is going to, I've lost the name right now, but it's any songs that actually talk about the names of God. I'm really strong on those type of songs. So if it's
Like
uh,
Jehovah Jireh, my provider, like a song like that.
there's that. There's um, the worship medley. This is a song I used to sing a long time ago from Karen Wheaton, but there's also another one that I believe the Broken Tabernacle did, that was again talking about the names of God, like holy, wonderful, marvelous, glorious, omnipotent. Saying all of those like names like that are a constant reminder of who God is, and it just kind of lifts my spirit. Um, Seasonal songs, I mean, I have to give shout out to the songs that I'm hearing now for Christmas that are raising again glory to God. um, a new song that I've recently, and I'm so thrilled to be able to know the people who have actually done the songs. He has made a way by First Alliance Church Music, or FAC Music. Beautiful song. Again, talking about the birth of Christ and how he has made a way through the birth of Christ, um, for us to have salvation. I love that song. Um, Another a happy song I like is "Ring the Bells," from my dear friend Dale Borland. Um, I love that song because one, it keeps me dancing. Another thing, but it still goes back to, yeah, ring the bells of Christmas, but know that you're ringing those bells because guess what? Just like the angels sang "Glory to God," salvation has come. We're ringing those bells too to say the same thing today. So that makes me happy. There's some other great songs that I've encountered that I'm not saying the names of because I don't know how much time we have, but beautiful songs that I'm hearing. These are more recently created songs that I'm loving. "Holy is the Lord" is another one. Um, yes, I think it's called "Holy is the Lord." I'm making sure I have the right title, from Stephen Lewis, and Olympia Lewis features her singing it. But again, beautiful song. Um, these are songs that are uplifting. These are songs that, I mean, these are seasonal in the sense that we're in the Christmas season as we're recording this. So these are songs that are really touching my heart and really cause me to sit back and really reflect on who God is and why did He come to this earth, and again, a renewed level of praise comes out. It's like, yeah, God, you really did do this. You really did come down for us. This is awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of songs. All these songs I've mentioned are songs that we've had the privilege of, we meaning GMI have had the privilege of sharing and promoting, and we have them on our compilation album. So, if anyone wants to actually get a hold of that, they can. It's at gmihub.bandcamp.com. But again, these songs you can hear on YouTube, you can hear on Spotify, you can hear on iTunes. They're all out there. So yeah, the beautiful songs that really touch my heart.
I like those song choices, Cheryl. Where do you find the inspiration, Cheryl, when you have to when working to a deadline?
When working towards a deadline, my inspiration is God and my team, and particularly my husband, in terms of meeting deadlines. And I'm kind of wondering if you mean deadlines are related to music or deadlines in general, just in life in general.
Okay, so in life, for instance, let's say you have a podcast and you've like for me it happened twice. I totally forgot I had one and it was like at 10 a.m. and I was up at 10:15 and this message saying, "Okay, I'm on." I was like, "Oh my goodness." You know, and you say,
Hmm.
"I'm so sorry." So now I make sure in my calendar it says, "Okay, 30 minutes you have a podcast,"
Right,
Or
right.
even in your job, or what do you do when you have a gospel musician, whoever it is, on your podcast and GMI Hub, um, they're 10 minutes late. How do you fill that 10 minutes?
Generally, we try to avoid them being 10 minutes late by encouraging them to, like, we send information, a lot of information to them before, a few days before the actual podcast. So they know, what their links are, they know what questions we can possibly ask them. And we do encourage them, we're going to go live because that's a little bit of a difference. When we do our online podcast, we go live at 7 in the evening on Monday evenings. So
Oh,
when
okay.
we tell them that we're going live, it's like literally we are going live, so there's no being late. But if they are late, our introduction allows for at least a 5 minute breather. um, so we have our introduction, which I think is similar to what you do, except I think yours is a little bit more um, elaborate than ours. But we have our spinning logo. We run commercials, and even when myself and my co-hosts come on, uh, we greet our audience. We go through our, if you want to know more about GMI Hub spiel before we introduce our panelists. So generally speaking, we try to avoid the lateness. Now if we've had some situations where if we have, say, one panelist and that panelist hasn't come up on, like, hasn't shown up, we literally don't go live until we at least have connection with that panelist. We had that happen, which has caused us to go live a little past 7 o'clock. But generally speaking, we try to do what we can to avoid and avoid those challenges. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else that we do. Like you, calendar. Yeah, definitely. If I'm doing a podcast, like knowing I had to do one today, I made sure I put it in my calendar so that the alarm would go off and say, "Hey, on this day, you're doing this at this time." So, um, and again, accountability helps, and that's why I mentioned my husband and my team. My husband knew, for example, I was going to be on this podcast, so he's very good at helping me do things on time and helping me not get distracted, because it's very easy for me to get distracted to do other things and cause myself to be late. And he'll say, "No, don't do that. That's not important. This is what you need." So accountability really is an inspiration for me.
You're talking about music, I think you said when you were 11 or
Am I
15, I think you said.
13?
Um,
Yeah.
13. So what about the first 12 years? Did you have an interest in music?
I remember as a child, I would listen to the radio and be singing harmonies, not knowing exactly what I was doing. And that was during my, age 5 through to 7. I remember doing that. So music, I guess, was a little bit of an interest. I did have a year of piano lessons and a year of dance lessons, kind of idea. But I think the seed of music was placed when I literally was listening to the radio stations and on long trips with my babysitter and her family, as we were heading to the cottage, and she'd be playing country music. They loved country music. And I'd be, because of the trip was several hours long. I As a child, it seemed like forever. It was a great time to go to sleep, but I would hear the music and I would be humming along with the music. And I was actually trying to find different parts. But if at that time you asked me what part I was singing, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. I wouldn't have been able to reiterate that part. So then as I got older, started going, what exactly am I doing? And I tried to reiterate the part, try to really listen to what exactly was coming out of me, and realize that one of my passions or one of my loves is for harmonies. And I think that's why when I finished university and ended up going to, at that time, Queensway Cathedral, um, I was there for about a year, and some of the members of the choir said, you should be in the choir. And they didn't know me really, more than just to see me and talk to my mom. And I said, well, sure, I can try, but I don't know I don't know what that experience would be like. And so, yeah, so I ended up joining the choir, again, learning more about harmonies. I didn't really get into the solo work until my, who I consider my musical mentor and spiritual musical dad, if you want to call it, Gary Hallberg, became the music director. And he was encouraging different choir members to step up and to sing and to learn to step out and be more than just a background singer. So I stepped out, and I remember my first time singing solo to him, being so scared that I basically closed my eyes really, really tight. I sang, and then I said, okay, hit it with me, hit it, tell me how awful I was. And he just kind of looked at me and said, wasn't that bad? Just need to do this. You just need to do that, kind of. So he was very gracious and guiding me on how to sing better. His wife, beautiful high soprano. Oh my gosh, I had the privilege of singing with her, and through that relationship and going on to worship teams under his leadership, I learned how to adapt my voice to the different people I was singing with. So if I was singing with his wife, who had a very bellish voice, I was able to match my voice, even though I was singing a different note, but able to sing with a tone that matched her tone. If I sang with someone else who had a totally different tone, I found myself matching that tone. And then I also found out um, the ability to hit notes, or to find notes in a harmony that other people would not find. And I thought that was an interesting skill. But literally, when one thinks about harmony, one thinks about, I'll say, the 1-3-5 sound. If you think do re mi fa sol la ti do, the harmony is really do mi and so, right? Do mi so. That's usually the three notes. But I was hitting the do re in the midst of these harmonies, and sometimes people welcome them. Sometimes they said, "Stop! Just don't do that anymore." Just this confuses us. Just do do mi so, because that's what we understand. So, but I found that was one of my strengths, is singing harmonies. That's how I got into it.
Yeah, I was actually part of a men's singing group at my church, and I did a lot of duets. Um, and also, I used to sing in a lot of old folks' home back in the 80s because I was attending Queen's Cathedral back then when Pastor Rutledge was pastor there.
Mhm.
And I made a few friends there, which I still associate with now. Now is actually one of my friends, Pastor Dwayne, is a pastor now at Portico, but I knew him since high school. And so it's kind of interesting what God has done. And I'm so grateful. And like a lot of people have less than what we have. And some of them may not have singing voices, but when you have a singing voice, I appreciate it. I'm blessed because my dad had an operatic voice, but he had never pursued music. But I think I inherited my voice from him. Um, I don't think anybody else in my family has sort of a. I think a lot of them have amusia, from what I know. Um, that's a medical term for tone deaf.
Oh no.
uh, so, how about your family? Do you have any siblings or family members that are also musically inclined?
In terms of the generation ahead of me, I would say my uncle was definitely is and still is singing. He's a tenor, and he's been singing in a choir for quite some time. Actually,
Wow,
he got recognized for being in a choir for over 50 years. Um,
nice.
Yeah, so he sings tenor. He's the one that's overtly musical. I have a cousin that also is a songwriter, recording artist in the Caribbean. Well, he does his recording in the Caribbean, although he lives in Ontario. Um, those are the people that are ahead of me musically that I know. I believe my father also used to sing. I've not heard him personally perform, but but I was told by my older siblings that he used to sing quite a bit. So um, that's where I think my music comes from. Now, generation following, my own children, particularly my youngest son, is adopting the singing side. My older son can also sing, but he's a shyer guy and he'd rather do kind of behind the scenes stuff. So the music continues; it lives on.
Yeah. Um, of course, as we know, we're familiar with the pandemic did to many musicians. It really affected opera singers, actually. Many of them, such as, I don't know if you're familiar with he's an internet sensation. It's called Chris Mann.
Mhm.
And you had a few opera singers perform online because you have social distancing. You can't really perform in a venue. And anybody who did perform in a venue, it was an empty venue. It was recorded so you can enjoy it online. Many of them
Mhm.
did that. But once we start opening up, maybe in late 2021, I know some I know some soprano who was just so busy now that she was so happy to be able to travel and start performing, and she enjoyed it. And once everything started opening up, so I want to start going out there and start performing and releasing some music. I got 4 songs that I haven't actually released. I wrote like 25 years ago. I like to
Wow.
release it. Um, and I'm still writing a Christmas song, but it's supposed to be released this year, but it won't be released till next year. But I want to start doing that. And I really appreciate that God has given me a voice. I'm actually a tenor, and so the next question I want to ask is about your Mount Everest song. Mine is Nessun Dorma. What would you consider your Mount Everest song? A song that you can't quite attain singing it, but you want to learn it and sing it. Do you have one?
I've never been asked that question before. My Mount Everest song. Um, I think I'd have to get back to you on that one, just because there are so many songs that I hear, um, songs that I wish I could sing. Wow, that'd be anything. Well, Carey style, anything I can sing up in that level, you know.
I think she
Um,
sings the G5, doesn't she? She's the
yeah,
highest.
I
Yeah.
can't sing up there. I can't sing up there, and um, yeah, like that would probably be. I don't know the names of all her songs, but just sing super high like that, um, that would be awesome. Um, I'm just trying to think of any other artists or any other songs that I would love to sing their music, but uh, yeah, I can't think of anything right now. I can't. Probably the
Yeah.
closest would be the Mariah Carey level of singing, or um, Gwen Stefano style of singing, in terms of her, not so much her any particular song, but more of her style of singing. The fact that it's very strong, um, and very yet emotional, and like it captures so much. I'd love to be able to sing like that. I don't think I'm fully there. That's all.
You mean Gwen Stefani, you mean?
Stefani, sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, she's my favorite too. Sort of, but I'm more Lara Fabian is another singer that I like, and I used to like Amy Grant, but I don't know. You kind of fall out of a lot of music I listen to. It's just um,
Well, you're strong on songs from more the 80s, I'm hearing. Yes, an artist from the 80s.
I know a lot of artists from the '80s, '90s, from the last 20 years as well. Some of them are just coming out now. One of them is my favorite is Saya. I never heard of Saya Furler, but she goes by Saya, and she
Mm.
wrote a really nice song called Snowman from her Christmas album. and another song called Every Day is Christmas. And you're talking about like put Christian lyrics to those ones, like
Yeah.
um, be like, instead of snowman and me, be Jesus and me. I love it. Yeah, why not? Um, so, what famous musicians do you admire?
Um, wow, there's a lot of there. I think of Larnell Lewis, who I don't know if you consider him famous, but he is well known as a drummer. For
I've heard of
starters,
Larnell Harris, but I haven't heard of Larnell Lewis.
Larnell Harris, I know, is a singer. Larnell Lewis is a Canadian drummer. And I admire him, one, because of his skill, but also because of his stance. He plays for if I can call it, a mainstream jazz band, but his stance, he's a believer. He's a strong believer, and he walks his talk. He doesn't like, he may not go around and thump everyone over with a Bible, or with a Bible verse, but he lives out what he believes, and I really admire that about him. Um, but he's a drummer. you know. In terms of other artists, um, I love the humility of Tom Golly. He's a singer from the U.S. Uh, I love his humility and his desire to mentor people. We've had him on our program as well. Very, very nice guy. John Chisholm, who you may know the name if you've seen some songs that have his name on it. He's a songwriter, but he's also worked with the Gaithers. Actually, that's how he got his beginning, is working with the Gaithers.
I know Guy
Um,
Perot and I know Bill Gaither, and
yes,
I think there was a member. Um, I can't remember that group, but they were big in the 50s and 60s,
the
and
Imperials. Maybe not the Imperials. That's not 50s and 60s.
I'll have to get back to you on that. But yeah, I've never heard of this one that you mentioned, but I'm sure there's
Mhm.
many gospel singers and contemporary singers out there that I've never heard of, but many of them otherwise not more inspired than like someone like Wayne Watson or Michael W. Smith. I mean,
And Chris
people,
Tomlin, Elevation, and.
well, I'd have sort of not wanting to get into this whole issue with elevation and Stephen Furtick, but like I said, all music is from God, and I believe that you can be inspired anyways. And but do you think when you hear a musician's story of why they're singing, why they're releasing music, do you feel more inspired? Like, let's say you're watching a gospel musician sing, and you're inspired by how he plays, but as soon as he mentioned the type of life he had and what brought him there, do you think you're more inspired? Because everyone has problems and issues and things going on in their life, and then some of them saying, "Then I found the Lord and changed my life, and now I sing for Him." Like there's this tenor, he had throat cancer,
Mhm,
and they were going to remove his voice box, and he was never able to sing again. So he asked God, said, "If you heal me, I will sing for you for the rest of
mhm,
my life." God healed him, and for the rest of his life, he started this beautiful opera.
mhm,
And if you just suddenly saw this guy singing, you wouldn't have any idea what happened. You just beautiful opera. Everyone loves opera. You would be able to know him. But as soon as you mention, "Oh, I am where I am because I had cancer and God healed me," then you're like, "Whoa!" And you're more inspired by that. Do you feel that's the same for you?
I love hearing the stories of artists, and the reason for that, actually, I just love hearing stories of people. And the reason for that is, understand hearing their story helps me understand where they're coming from when they are doing what they do, whether it's singing, whether it's working behind the scenes, whether it's sewing, or whatever they do. It helps me understand the why behind what they're doing and what they're saying. To your point, when they give their testimony, especially before they sing a song, it helps with understanding why they sing what they're singing and why they sing it with such passion. For example, I believe, and I might have the artist incorrect, but I believe um, there's one male artist that I heard earlier in the year. I believe it was Jordan St. Cyr, who had a particular song that when asked what the story was behind the song, it turned out, I believe it was him, but if I'm wrong, forgive me, Jordan, right? Um, that the song was written because of his wife being deathly ill at that point in time, and he wrote a song to help him, um, I guess, express his trust in God, even though it looked very bleak for his wife. So when I hear the song, like I heard the song, I said, wow, you have a lot of passion behind that song. But then when I reheard the song after hearing that story, it's like, whoa, now I understand why you have the passion behind that song, because what's motivating you is you're thinking about your wife in that hospital. And you're saying, God, I am going to trust you to heal her. I'm going to trust you to make this happen. I believe it was him. If it wasn't him, again, I apologize for the incorrect reference. But um, to your point, yes, there is a greater understanding of the passion behind the song, which is why I love to encourage, artist showcases where people can actually share their original music and say, and we ask them, what is the story behind the song? What is your inspiration behind the song? So that when they actually present that song and they're able to tell the story behind the song, there has greater meaning, greater understanding, and greater appreciation for it. I'll give you an example. There's an artist from the Philippines that we have encountered named Mary Ozaraga. Uh, she only started sharing her music in 2020 during the pandemic, and she released a song with us called Beautiful Mess. It's a Christmas song about Jesus being born, and he's a beautiful thing, but the irony was the mess, because here he was a king and he came down as a baby in the middle of a political mess. He's in a barn that's not a neat barn, it's a mess, kind of idea. And when we got her to share the story of what's the story behind that particular song, she shared, one thing that she shared was that her father, who has, I don't believe it's Parkinson's, but he has a disease that limits his ability, his mobility, was able to play either the trumpet or the saxophone on her song. And she'd say, I want to give a shout out to my dad because he did this. And so now when I heard the song, I never really paid attention to that saxophone, that horn part. But as soon as I heard it, I went, yes, I remember she said her dad played that, and with all the difficulty, he played it with all his strength to glorify God, even though he had limited mobility to play. So to your point, yes, when I hear a story behind the song, it is very much more inspiring, and there's a greater appreciation for that song when I hear it.
That's wonderful. The one thing I wanted to ask is thank you very much for this opportunity to interview. I know that you know my friends Ben and Allison, and we were
Yes,
having dinner just up here, and they mentioned about, hey, you should talk to our friend Cheryle Dueck. So then I started reaching out to you, and here we are.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Ben.
Uh,
Thank you, Allison.
I'm sure they'll watch this one soon. But if someone said, Cheryl, we like you to set up a group choir to sing Handel's Messiah at Christmas time. Is this something you could do? Would you need help for it? Would you know what to do?
To set up a choir. Well, actually, my background has been a choir director, but more for youth. I have done that, and so to a degree, I would not have a problem. I think the biggest, if I can say, challenge would be getting the word out there to say anybody who wants to sing can come and sing. You know, um, that would probably be more of the challenge, but in terms of actually doing the choir directing, that wouldn't be a problem. What I am intrigued with though is that you did say you are working with a number of people that are singers and songwriters and so forth, and even you yourself have songs that you'd love to um, produce and get out there. And I will encourage you, Chris, as well as any other people that might be watching that are in a similar situation, that if you have songs that you want to share and you just need that extra little oomph to help you get going, give us give GMI Hub a try. GMIHub.ca. Just give us a try. Um, we would love to help you with giving you the information you need to get your songs out there, helping you with things like how to register your song, and giving you opportunity to share your song. If you're kind of a little shy about doing it on your own, you're welcome to be a part of our compilation projects. We've done 3 so far for Christmas, so you can definitely check those out. And we're planning to do it again in the new year, to do a Christmas compilation. So you're more than welcome to be a part of that, to submit your songs. And again, when you submit your song, we put it as part of we evaluate the song, and we if accepted, put it into the compilation project, which gets shared to radio stations across Canada, and then now and also into the US. We also put it in a compilation package so that people can actually purchase that if they want to purchase that, so that they have your music in their home. And what a blessing that would be, to know that the gift that you have been given is blessing other people in their homes and in their lives. So we give that opportunity. We also offer opportunities for you to showcase your talent. So if you've also written songs, um, and you shared them with us, we love to give you opportunity to showcase that to an online and an in-person audience. Again, that's all part of being a part of GMI Hub. So I'd love to be able to help you with that. We're not here to promote ourselves for ourselves' sakes. We're here to help build the kingdom from the music side of it. So feel free to come and join us and be a part of that. And that invitation's for you too, Chris.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, I want to be part of a group again. I'd like to get like a tenor and soprano group together, like not like, well, sort of like pentatonics, but more like well, there's groups like groups out there who just perform. I was part of 2 men's groups, and
Mhm.
why it didn't continue up to today, I have no idea. I think maybe God was just wanting me to get an experience of what it's like to travel and sing, because you have rivalry where one person wants to sing this, the other. But I want to be part of a group again, and yeah, maybe I'll reach out, and maybe if you have any idea of how I can do that. But Vamper is an app where you can use, where you can search for like people, like band members,
Right.
and they reach out to you and say, "Well, I'm a drummer. Let's start a group or something." I tried that, but it's not really my thing. Is to go online to search for people. I just prefer to, God knows what I like, and just meet people
Mm-hmm.
and do tryouts and auditions, and then you come up with a name. But I want God to put that together. I don't want to have to like just, because sometimes you sing with the wrong people. I sing online with a lot of people, and it didn't last very long.
Mm.
And but yeah, Handel's Messiah. That's really difficult, because you got to figure out the alto, you got to figure out the sopranos, the tenors. And I'm not a choir director, but I really love singing with people. So maybe
Yeah,
we can connect in some way. Just do that.
absolutely.
Um, and then you have those sounds. Remember, I heard the bells on Christmas Day. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Songs that we need to hear, because many people don't want to come to God
And
because
I was gonna say this. I was gonna say that I'll coin a phrase that another good friend of mine used to tell me years ago, and she used to say, "Every disappointment is God's appointment." And that appointment may simply be God saying, are you going to trust me? Are you going to trust me when things are going good? Are you going to trust me when things are not going good? Are you still going to see that I am God? And that's why we almost have to get to that place where we say God is still God, whether using Jeremy Camp's situation, whether God shows there's complete healing, or whether there's a remission, whether or not the cancer is there, it's God is still God through it all. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yes, he is able to heal. But if he chooses not to, there's a reason behind it, and it goes beyond our own understanding. I can understand that feeling because my own mom had cancer as well. And she had a season where she had cancer, went through all the treatments, and it went into remission for a few years. And literally she was told that if she was in remission for about 5 years, she can pretty much say she's free and clear of cancer. But 4.5 years later, it came back. And unfortunately, her body deteriorated over time and she ended up passing away. Um, and yeah, there could have been questions at that time as I'm her daughter and I'm going, but God, why are you doing this? Why did you give her cancer? What was the purpose of this? And I had my questions. I'm sure she had her questions too. But the bottom line was, are you going to trust me? Which is what God would say. Are you going to trust me through this whole scenario? Because you know what? That's what Psalm 23 was about. Lord, you are our shepherd. We shall not want. We make us lie down in green pastures. You lead us beside still waters. You restore our souls. You lead us in the valley. Like though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will still trust you. We will still, that's what those situations mean. And so when I hear those stories about healing and not healing, I don't sit here and question God. Are you sure you can heal or not heal? I don't question God's ability. I look at it as God's way of saying, are you going to trust me? And still stand on his word that basically says he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If he wants to, he can split the Atlantic Ocean if he wanted to do it. If he felt there was a purpose for it, he can do it, right? He did it for Moses. He can do it today if he wanted to, if it was going to give him glory. But, he might not have a need to do that right now, right? But yeah, that's how I look at those situations. And I know it's hard when going through them. I know that it's very difficult. The pain is there when you believe for someone to not die and then they die. And you say, God, why did you take the person's life? Well, maybe because God said, you know what? I have fulfilled, or that person's life has been has done what it's supposed to do while here on earth. It is time for him or her to come now and rest in my arms. When my mother passed away, I basically, you know, I basically remembered her when she was singing in the kitchen and dancing, and said, now she's just doing it with the angels. Now she's doing it with everybody else in heaven right now, and she's no more pain, no more sorrow, no more tears, no more fear. Her last words when she was on the hospital bed was she was crying out to Jesus all the time. It was just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. She didn't care who was around her. She just kept calling out the name of Jesus until her very last breath. So to me, that was her saying, Jesus, I am still going to trust you. I'm scared, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you to take my hand and take me into glory.
That is so inspirational, Cheryl. Thank you very much for sharing that. I too
Yeah.
suffered the loss of two parents with cancer, and my father died 20 years ago. But the
Mm-hmm.
song by Wayne Watson called "Turning into Dad" really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
How I just want to be like him, and just if I ever do go out there and perform again, I want to do it for him. I'm going to sing for him. I may not write songs according to what I felt, but certain songs do help me. That
Yes.
this song reminds me of my dad, and so yeah, I've been there. It's really terrible watching them suffer like that. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you, Cheryl. I didn't mean to go over,
That's it.
but I appreciate you spending this much time. Thank you for your husband to talk to me before, and it was nice to know him. And so let's connect, and we'll get. Maybe you can help me I don't know if you're able to find singing groups, but I do have 4 songs I could hopefully maybe get out there, but
Mhm.
maybe change the lyrics here and there to reflect the new time or the new dates. I'm sure.
Right.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. And so I hope that you have a wonderful Christmas, and I hope that we can talk soon.
Absolutely. Wonderful
Thank
to
you.
be.
Thank you so much. Well, we really were inspired by our little conversation, and thank you for your wonderful, encouraging words. So inspirational, and I'll remember this day and reflect upon who God really is and what He can be and do for us. But it's what the Word says, and you know. And to end with this, when you wake up in the morning, you have the sun out, and it's a blue sky, and it's a beautiful day. The next day it's cloudy. Does that negate the fact that the sun is not shining, or just the sun is behind the clouds? It's still there. It's just that you have the clouds in front of it. So think
That's right.
about that one. The sun is
Hmm.
still shining, you just don't see it, right?
That's right.
Good. Thanks, Cheryl. So I look forward to this, and have a wonderful Christmas season, and Merry Christmas, and hope to talk soon.
Thank you, and same to you. And Happy New Year, because obviously we'll be
Happy New
very much
Year too.
here. Happy
Thank you very much.
2023. Bye for
Okay,
now.
see everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Boom.